Worst job? Darth Vader's doctor. I saw that comment and nearly threw my phone across the room. Because it's so obvious. So painfully, absurdly obvious that I cannot believe we've spent years debating whether the Rancor Keeper has it rough or whether those clone scientists on Kamino had good benefits. While everyone argued about exotic edge cases, the actual answer was sitting right there in plain sight, breathing through a ventilator and choking middle management to death on a bi-weekly basis. So let's talk about it, not as a fun fan theory, as a prosecutorial argument. Darth Vader is the single greatest workplace hazard in documented galactic history. Every sentient being who worked within force choke distance of him was functionally entering an unmarked grave. And somehow, the Empire never filed the paperwork. Here's what kills me about the worst Star Wars job discourse. People immediately jump to the weird stuff, the gross stuff, the imagine being the guy who cleans the trash compactor stuff. And yeah, fine. Those jobs are bad. But they're bad in normal ways. Dangerous conditions, unpleasant tasks, poor ventilation. You know what's not a normal workplace hazard? Your boss murdering people with his mind during staff meetings because someone else's PowerPoint went badly. The Galactic Empire formalized its military structure in 19 BBY, right after the Republic became the Empire, and everyone suddenly needed new business cards. On paper, it looked like any military hierarchy you'd recognize. Enlisted personnel at the bottom, junior officers in the middle, senior officers commanding ships, admirals directing fleets, Moffs and Grand Moffs answering directly to Emperor Palpatine himself. Clean lines, clear reporting structure. The org chart made sense. The reality of serving within this hierarchy? Absolutely unhinged. Vader existed outside the formal chain of command, while simultaneously possessing authority that superseded everyone within it. Think about that for a second. He wasn't the CEO. He wasn't the board. He was the CEO's personal enforcer who could walk into any department, any meeting, any bridge of any Star Destroyer in the fleet, and suddenly everyone's authority became provisional. Management consultants would call this a matrix reporting structure. Except matrix reporting doesn't usually involve telekinetic murder as a performance management tool. The positions that required direct proximity to Vader read like a catalog of career death sentences wearing prestigious uniforms. Let's start with the one the comment mentioned, the medical staff responsible for maintaining Vader's life support apparatus. This wasn't a cushy research gig. This was hands-on maintenance of a full-body system, keeping a severely burned quadruple amputee alive through constant respiratory assistance, temperature regulation, and nutrient delivery. The suit required regular maintenance. Components needed calibration and replacement. This work necessarily brought technicians into close physical proximity with the Dark Lord himself. Picture it. You're a highly trained Imperial medical specialist, top of your class at whatever academy produces these people. You've been assigned to maintain the life support system of Darth Vader. Prestigious, career-defining. And also, your patient can kill you with a thought if he's dissatisfied with your work. But here's the thing. You can't do delicate medical work while terrified. Fine motor control requires steady hands. Concentration requires calm. Terror explicitly undermines both. So every day, these specialists walked into treatment environments where their patient's cooperation was absolute, but so was his capacity for lethal response to perceived failure. Whether any of Vader's medical staff survived their tenure remains undocumented in Imperial archives, which itself suggests an answer. Now, let's talk about the bridge officers of the Executor, Vader's flagship. 19 kilometers long, over 280,000 personnel required to operate it. The command bridge of this vessel placed officers within 20 feet of Darth Vader during critical military operations, which meant within 20 feet of Darth Vader during military failures. Every officer who served bridge duty witnessed what happened to colleagues who disappointed the Dark Lord. They reported for subsequent shifts anyway, because desertion constituted treason, and the Empire's alternative employment options for former officers consisted primarily of execution or the spice mines. We'll get to the spice mines. Oh, we'll get there. Communications officers faced the most impossible circumstances of all. Their function required delivering information to Vader. And information during wartime frequently consists of bad news. The rebels escaped. The probe droids lost contact. The bounty hunters failed. Each sentence, a potential death sentence for its speaker. Imperial training academies offered no coursework on how to inform Darth Vader of operational setbacks. Officers developed survival strategies through observation of which phrasings resulted in continued breathing. And that's when we get to the evidence. The actual, documented, on-screen murders that prove this case. 3 ABY. The campaign that culminated in the Battle of Hoth. The Executor, under the command of Admiral Ozzel, had tracked rebel activity to the Hoth system following intelligence from Imperial probe droids. Ozzel, a career naval officer who had achieved the highest command rank available in the Imperial Navy, made a tactical decision that would define the final moments of his career and his life. Ozzel ordered the Imperial fleet to exit hyperspace in close proximity to the Hoth system. Standard naval doctrine, aggressive engagement, element of surprise, defensible tactical reasoning. The problem? He failed to account for the rebel base's planetary shield generator. The rebels detected the fleet with sufficient warning to activate their defenses. The devastating surprise assault became a protracted ground operation. Vader observed this outcome from his meditation chamber. His response? A remote force choke initiated through the ship's holographic communication system. Through the hologram. Let that sink in. Vader could now murder subordinates without being physically present. Distance offered no safety. If you could see his face on a screen, you were within killing range. As Admiral Ozzel clutched his throat and died, Vader pronounced his tactical assessment. He is as clumsy as he is stupid. The body collapsed. Captain Piet, standing 3 feet from his dying superior officer, received his battlefield promotion. You are in command now, Admiral Piet. No congratulation in that statement. Piet understood immediately that his promotion represented transfer from one category of endangered officer to another. His predecessor's corpse was still being removed from the bridge as he assumed command of the fleet's pursuit of rebel forces. Days later, the aftermath of Hoth, a second documented execution. Captain Nita commanded the Star Destroyer Avenger, tasked with pursuing the Millennium Falcon following its escape from Hoth's orbital blockade. Han Solo piloted the Falcon into an asteroid field, eventually executing a maneuver that attached the ship to the hull of Nita's own vessel. When the Falcon detached and disappeared into hyperspace, Nita's sensors showed nothing. No trace, no direction. Gone. Here's where it gets tragic. Nita's response demonstrated either remarkable integrity or remarkable naivety regarding his employer's management philosophy. He announced his intention to apologize to Vader personally, accepting full responsibility for losing the target. I shall assume full responsibility for losing them. The most tragic example of workplace honor meeting workplace brutality in the historical record. Nita approached Vader prepared to acknowledge his failure, request another opportunity, make it right. The scene that followed shows Vader standing over Nita's freshly killed body. Apology accepted, Captain Nita. 2 stormtroopers dragged the corpse away for disposal. The casual delivery, the absolute absence of emotion or ceremony. A senior officer executed for the crime of failing to track a ship that had employed unprecedented evasive tactics. Apologies weren't mechanisms for professional growth. They were formalities observed immediately before death. No investigation followed Ozzel's death. No tribunal reviewed Nita's execution. The Imperial Navy continued operations with the same personnel who had witnessed their colleagues die, expecting peak efficiency from people who understood their own performance evaluations might prove similarly terminal. Why is that a fun fact? Admiral Piet's survival through the remainder of 3 ABY and into 4 ABY represents a statistical anomaly. Having witnessed both Ozzel and Nita die within his first hours of command, Piet adopted what appears to have been a strategy of maximum caution combined with minimal initiative. He issued orders. He commanded the fleet. But surviving documentation suggests a man operating in constant awareness that each breath might be his last. He died when the Executor itself was destroyed at the Battle of Endor. An A-wing fighter crashed into the bridge following the destruction of the ship's deflector shield generator. Combat death. At least it wasn't his own boss. Whether that represented a better outcome than the alternatives Piet had spent over a year anticipating, that's a matter of perspective. So that's the Imperial Navy, the prestigious career path, the officers in their crisp uniforms and their pristine star destroyers, dying because their middle management couldn't protect them from upper management's mood swings. But wait, it gets worse. Let's talk about spice mining. Because if the Empire's treatment of its military officers seems bad, the Empire's treatment of its mining workforce redefines the concept of bad employment. We're not talking bad conditions. We're not talking low wages. We're talking slavery. The spice mines of Kessel had operated as monuments to institutional cruelty for generations. Located in the Outer Rim, the Kessel system housed mining operations that extracted glitterstim and other spice variants from deep underground tunnels, characterized by unstable geology, toxic atmospheres, and working conditions that would have violated labor standards in any civilization that possessed them. The Empire didn't possess them. The workforce that descended into those tunnels each day? Not employees. Slaves. Wookiees captured from Kashyyyk. Twi'leks taken from Ryloth. Humans condemned as political prisoners. Countless other beings whose primary crime had been existing in the wrong place when Imperial slavers needed bodies. Sent to the spice mines of Kessel functioned throughout the galaxy as a euphemism for death sentence with labor. A one-way journey from which return was statistically negligible. Average survival time in the deep mines measured in months rather than years. Months. Tunnel collapses. Respiratory failure from spice exposure. Simple exhaustion. Workers died faster than new captives could replace them. The mining process exposed them to concentrated spice particulates that accumulated in lung tissue. Occupational poisoning that would have constituted criminal negligence in any system with functioning labor protections. The Empire's response was to ensure that the workers who might file complaints lacked the legal standing, the physical capacity, and increasingly the life expectancy to do so. Glitterstim, Kessel's most valuable export, possessed mild telepathic properties when consumed. Prized by those seeking altered consciousness, feared by those who preferred their thoughts private, and extracted by people dying in darkness thousands of meters below the surface while the galaxy got high. The Dune fans in the audience are nodding right now. Yeah, it's like that. Except somehow worse, because at least the Fremen got to keep their planet. Imperial records from 10 BBY document a revolt at the Kessel mines that resulted in significant slave liberation. Smuggler activity disrupted operations temporarily. Chewbacca of Kashyyyk was among the Wookiees freed during this incident, his subsequent lifetime companionship with Han Solo originating in shared trauma from a place where friendship itself constituted rebellion. The mines resumed operations following the disruption. Of course they did. The Empire's appetite for spice and the criminal syndicate's appetite for profit both exceeded any concern for the lives consumed in extraction. The Pike Syndicate's involvement connected Kessel's horrors to the broader galactic underworld, establishing supply chains that moved product through dozens of systems, while the beings who produced it died without names in unmarked tunnels. This is what employment meant within the Imperial framework. The Empire didn't recognize workers' rights in any jurisdiction. It recognized utility. And utility could be extracted through payment or through chains, with roughly equal indifference. The spice mines were the logical endpoint, work without compensation, dignity, or survival, but they existed on a continuum with employment throughout Imperial space. Every job in the Empire carried implicit coercion. The only variable was degree. Now, for the absurdist escalation, let's visit Tatooine. Jabba's palace offers examination as a counterpoint to Imperial dysfunction. demonstrating that the galaxy's employment crisis extended beyond military service to civilian criminal employment. Jabba the Hutt had operated his organization from the palace outside Mos Eisley for decades. Crime syndicate headquarters, entertainment venue, execution chamber, roughly equal measure. Someone needs to work there. Bib Fortuna served as Jabba's majordomo, the Twi'lek administrator who handled day-to-day operations. This position, prestigious by underworld standards, required standing beside Jabba for extended periods, whispering counsel into ears adjacent to a mouth that consumed live prey and exuded biological substances of uncertain composition. Jabba's dentist. That comment got 16 engagements because it implies someone has to deal with that mouth. The joke lands because it's probably true. Someone, somewhere in that palace, had to address the oral hygiene situation of a crime lord whose diet included live frogs and screaming rodents. The Max Rebo Band provided musical entertainment for Jabba's court, performing upbeat numbers while their employer conducted business that regularly included torture, imprisonment, and executing guests who failed to meet his standards. Max Rebo himself, the blue Ortolan keyboardist, had reportedly accepted a lifetime contract paid entirely in free food rather than currency. Job security at the cost of any realistic exit strategy. He would never lack meals. He could also never accumulate resources to leave. The musicians performed through executions, performed through screams from the dungeon, maintained the jaunty atmosphere Jabba demanded, regardless of the horrors occurring around them. Cy Snoodles, the Palawick vocalist, operated in conditions requiring professional cheerfulness while surrounded by death. Droopy McCool, the Katonak horn player, maintained placid demeanor attributed either to exceptional emotional control or to species-wide capacity for psychological dissociation. The survival mechanism that Jabba's employment required: witness atrocity, process it as background noise, continue performing your assigned function without visible distress. Ula's case demonstrates where entertainment ended and enslavement began. The green-skinned Twi'lek dancer had been captured and forced into service, with entertainer serving as euphemism for whatever Jabba desired on any given occasion. When she resisted being pulled toward Jabba's bulk during a performance in early 4 ABY, he triggered the trapdoor, dropped her into the rancor pit below. Her death occurred before witnesses who understood that commentary or objection would result in joining her. Every position in that palace, the guards, the servants, the kitchen staff, the droid supervisors, carried implicit understanding. Your employer could kill you for entertainment. Your colleagues would watch. The band would keep playing. So, let me rest my case. The worst job in Star Wars isn't exotic. It isn't niche. It isn't the weird creature handling gig or the ethically compromised science position that nobody in the comments cared about. It's anything within force choke distance of middle management's worst nightmare. It's delivering bad news to a man who responds to tactical disagreement with remote strangulation. It's calibrating life support equipment for a patient who could execute you for a miscalibrated oxygen mix. It's standing on a bridge where 2 of your predecessors died within the same week because a smuggler flew good. The Empire was a toxic workplace. Vader was the toxicity. And the truly wild part? Nobody filed an HR complaint, probably because HR was also force-choked. Subscribe for more stories like this.